Alright, in this video we'll see how to create this WordPress plugin. So you can see this is called UI Monk Gallery. So this output is coming from this output, as I mentioned, this shortcode. Once we add this shortcode, this is how the output would look like. Now to add these images and the text, we have a custom post type, and the custom post type we have metaboxes. You can see these are the metaboxes. In case if you want to add one more image, you can just select the image and just give some name and click on update. Once you click on update, you can see the images has got appended just below, and if you make a refresh over here, you'll see the images has been updated on the front end as well. So here in this tutorial we'll see how to create a shortcode that will output this HTML, and also we'll be creating the custom post type. So you can see this is called UI Monk Galleries. Inside custom post type we have meta boxes. We have achieved this with the help of WordPress Metabox, where we could add multiple rows if we need. If you want to remove, you can remove it. Let's say I want to remove this, and if I click on update, and it got removed, and the changes would get reflected on this front end as well. So you can see only 3 in a row shows up. So what are the things that we are going to cover in this video? So we'll see how to create custom table and CPT. So here you see all the data, all the tables, sorry, all the names with the images are stored in this particular table. So you can see with the title with the image URL. Now this is, we'll see how to insert those value. Once we enter these value into the meta boxes, these value get stored into the custom table. We'll see how to create this along with the CPT. So we have a CPT called UI Monk Gallery. We'll see how to create this, and the meta box and repeater field. So this is called the meta box, which we see in the advanced custom field, and this is the repeater field. As I keep on adding, you will be able to add more rows. We'll see how to create this, and then the media library. So you have noticed when I click on the select image, this is the media library which WordPress provides you for selecting the images. I can able to select it, and if you want to remove, just remove it. We'll see how to add that, and then the shortcode. So whatever data is in this table, we are fetching it and displaying it over here in the front end with the help of a shortcode. We'll see how to create that as well. So here, this is episode number 38. We have created the episode from 1 to 38, like 0 to hero. In the episode number 1, we'll be starting with very basic, and we have reached till here, which is episode number 38. Is a combination of shortcode, media library, meta boxes, repeater field, custom table, and CPT all in one. So here we are going to learn, take a deep dive into how to use WP Media, which is media library, and this is Metabox. In case if you are interested in learning similar WordPress related videos, or if you want to be a web developer, I have a course for it. This is the WordPress developer roadmap. I would recommend you to start from HTML, then go to CSS, then JavaScript, then PHP, then WooCommerce, then theme development, then plugin development. Each of this has some certain amount of lessons which you want to complete. Unless you won't complete, you won't be confident enough to say yourself as you're a web developer or you're a WordPress developer. So I have made the course in such a way that if you start from zero, you once you complete these particular courses, you would be confident enough to say yourself as you are a web developer. Like I have started from HTML and CSS, which is a practical base, not a theory base. Every course, every lessons inside it is actually a practical base. Once you complete those lessons, you would receive a source code that you can use it as a portfolio and get a job or a freelancing project based on your skill set. Now starting from HTML, we have seen how to convert PSD to HTML, and then slowly we'll learn how to we'll convert PSD to Bootstrap. So this is from zero to hero roadmap. Similarly for the JavaScript as well, I have like hundreds of lessons in the JavaScript lessons, and we'll be starting from zero, and once you reach to the 100th lesson, you'll be confident enough to say yourself as you are a we have ended it with the quiz game, the Giphy site clone, IDMB clone, and finally the custom chatbot. I want my plugin to show up in this particular section. So for that, what we'll do is we'll create a folder into the plugin folder. So you see, this is the setup of WordPress locally. What I'll do is inside plugins folder, I'll create my own plugin. Let me say UI Monk gallery hyphen gallery. So it's recommended to have the PHP file named similar to your folder name. So in this case, the folder name is UI Monk gallery. I'll copy it, get inside, and make it a .php and select all files. Now we want to populate the name, the description, the version, and the author name. So these are the data coming from the comments. Let's use that. So we can pass this metadata with the help of comment. So UI Monk 2 multi-line. We can make this version number 2 and click on save. This is enough to show your plugin on this particular page. You can see UI Monk 2. Now once I click on activate, I want to create a table on the database. So localhost php admin. So to create a table on the php admin, we have a function called register activation hook. Let's use that. So this register activation hook will actually call a function, and that function, what we'll do is we'll create the query for the table creation. And first of all, we'll define the WPDB. The WPDB is actually responsible for interacting with this PHP file to your database, which is a global WordPress object. And we'll define the WPDB with, we'll call the WPDB and understand what is a prefix. So you can see when you click on the database, each table will have a prefix. So we need to understand what prefix is. So I'm calling the WPDB and appending it with my custom name. So WP underscore, and this is how the table name is going to be. And now I need to write a query to create the to create the columns. Now this SQL query will help you to create a table. This is going to be the table name. These are the column names: ID, post ID, title, image ID, and image URL. And we are passing the character set because it's required for the database to internally select what is the character set is. We don't have to get deeper into it. Usually it's going to be UTF-8 or ASCII. That's it. That's now we need to execute this query, this SQL statement. So whenever you use a custom table, WordPress gives you a function which is dv delta. Now if you are using the inbuilt table, we will be using WP query. Since we are using a custom table, we will be using dv delta. So let's call the function and execute the SQL. And now we are passing the SQL into dv delta. Now we need to call where the dv delta is actually located. So this dv delta is actually located in this upgrade.php. This is the file location. Now once you activate, you would see, let me just activate it. Upon activation, you should see a table on this database, which is this one, and we have defined the columns that you can see it on the screen, which is ID, post ID, title, image ID, and image URL. Now what we need to do is we need to create a custom post type. So if you see on the right hand side, you'll see this UI Monk gallery. We'll need to create a custom post type. For that we'll be using a hook called init. So that hook will call our function so that we can create a custom post type. So as said, init is a hook, and this is a function that is calling a custom post type. To create custom post type, we have a function called register post type, where we are defining, this is a handle, you don't have to worry about it. The label is important. Just what you see here, UI Monk galleries, it is coming from this label, and I'm saying we have to make this true. Let's make this true so that we can access the whatever is there inside the custom post types, so that we can access it on the front end, and show UI is not needed. By default, I want the support of the title. So you see, once I click on add post, this is the default, and everything else is faded out. Faded out in the sense, you can either have the featured image. If you want featured image, you need to pass featured image. If you want the editor text, just you'll see a large WordPress editor, text editor. You can call it or initialize it just by adding it by this way, editor. Now we don't want that, we'll just need title, that's it. And I want the icons to be dash icon images. Once you save, let me just see whether we are able to see. We see a custom post type called mgalleries. Now when I click on mgalleries, I want this custom post type to have a meta box. So let's initialize for the meta box. Similarly, just how we have done, we have to call a hook which is add meta boxes, and this is a relevant function that would called. And inside the meta boxes, we need to define, this is the ID, we don't have to worry about it. This is the page name or the meta box name. You see over here, gallery item. So gallery item is coming from over here, and this is a function that would attach your HTML, and this is the slug. So over here we are passing the slug, just as you see here. If I click galleries, you see post type equal to u1 gallery. So this is actually the slug. So if I click on our gallery, m hyphen, this is the slug. So we are passing the slugs to connect the custom post type with your meta box, and these are the priority. You want these data to be on side or side. There are many options, we have already covered it, we don't have to worry about it. When you say normal, it will just display just one below the other, just this way, just before your title we have this. And you see, for the either we can have normal or side or advanced, and for the priority it's going to be high, core, or default, or low. For by default I'm saying the priority should be default, and I'm saying normal is okay. If you want side, these data, whatever you see just below here, will be shown on the sidebar if you make this side. And we have already covered this, we don't have to get deep into it. Now the callback function, we need to define the callback function, and in this callback function what we need to do is we need to define these values. This is actually coming from, this is a table, this is table head, title, image, and action. Let's use the callback function. So if I refresh this page, you'll see if the data is already populated, we need to fetch that data and then display it. So for that, using the database, I'm calling the wpdb, and would be using the SQL query to fetch select star from where we need to pass the post ID. So each of them will have a post ID. You can see this is 180. So this post ID would be passed, and we'll be receiving all the data. And once we receive it, we need to create a HTML, and this HTML will usually have the head table, which we have the title, image, and action. Title, image, and action is there, and we fetch these value from the rows. So it's regular CRUD operation which we usually. And now if you see, I have used the for each loop to fetch individual row, and the first one is input type. So you can see this is input type text, and the name is actually an array. So each of them are values that each of the values are stored inside the array, which is mgallery title, and the relevant value if there is any value in it. And the second one is, since we don't have access to the URL, WordPress usually stores all your image in the form of ID. So just above the select, we will create an input type hidden, and we'll store the ID of the image. Once we have the ID, we'll use this button to trigger the Media Library API. So once I click it, you'll see the Media Library API will show up. So for that, we'll have this button. Make sure to add BR, because these are inline, and this is also inline. So to make some separation, I have used BR. And since we get the ID, with the help of ID, we can get the URL. So WordPress usually stores all your images in the table called the attachment. So you'll see attachment. Sorry, not in the attachment, it's post, and the post type is attachment. So you see the post type is actually attachment. The images are stored in the post type attachment, and each of them would be assigned ID. So once we have that ID, we can get the URL. So that's why we would be the reason for making this is we want to see the preview. So that's the reason I have made this. Usually WordPress doesn't allow to have a preview. We have used the Media Library API to fetch the URL, and we'll store that URL into the database, and we'll again fetch it to display the preview. Now just after that, we have a remove button. In case if I click on remove, it would get removed, and until and unless you click on update, it won't get saved. And finally we have a button which will append the table row one more time if needed when I click on add more. Cool. Now what happens when I click on save? So WordPress gives you a hook called save post where you would need to save the values. Now we need to fetch these values and insert it into the table. That's very simple. The code looks complicated, but it's simple. Now what happens is we are using the WPDB again to store the values, defining the table. And since I have the option of removing, if I click remove, what happens is I want to redo the whole thing. So listen carefully. If I click save, what happens is whatever data is already in the table would get deleted, and then the data would be fetched from the form and displayed. If I click update, whatever is there in this particular table which is linked to the post ID would get deleted, and once after deleted, whatever is there in this field will fetch it one by one and insert it, so that our sorting problem gets resolved. If you don't understand, listen it again. And that's the reason why we have used delete. So the delete is because if we want to maintain the sequence, that's the reason why we have used delete. And now if the title is not empty, these are the title, then run the for each loop based on title. And if the image ID is empty, if the selected image is empty, then insert the 0. If the selected image URL is empty, make this nothing. Or if there is a selected URL, selected ID, then what we need to do is, as said, each of the image is linked to a post type. So you can see these are the attachment, these information that you can find it on the post meta. And with the help of get attachment URL, each ID is linked to a URL, and that URL you will be getting it with the help of image ID. We have already covered this. Now since we have all the data, we would be inserting it fresh for this particular ID. We'll be inserting it fresh, and those data would get saved. Now we'll see how the JS works by adding a new row or removing the new row. Let's create that. So for that we need to enqueue a script. So this hook will call this function, and this function will make sure that this particular script is loading to the custom post type which we have given over here. It makes sure that this script is actually loading to the custom post type which we need. If not, then don't run the below line. That's why return. And then we have added the media enqueue CS. This will add the CSS and JavaScript required to open the media library pop-up. And then this is the function that we need. In the current folder, I'm saying this is the handle for the WordPress. We don't have to worry about it, and we are passing the link. In the current folder, create a new file and name it as .js, and inside the .js we can write our own. And this is saying, we are saying that there is no this parameter saying that before loading my file, make sure to load the jQuery. So this is called dependency. First jQuery would load it, and then our file. And then we are saying that whether to load our JS on the head, or on the footer. I'm saying load it on the footer. That's why it's true. And for the JS, if I click remove, what happens? So if I click remove, if I click on the remove button, make sure not to reload the page, and find the nearest TR. So this is a TR, this is a TR, and this is a TR. If I click remove, find the nearest TR and remove the whole TR. That's what it does. And let's say when I click on add more, what happens? So if I click on add more, again don't refresh the page, just redo the HTML and append it to the table body. So this is one text field, with ID, you can see the name is an array actually, and then there is an input field hidden, which is this, and then we have a button which is this, and then we have a BR which is this, and then we have a remove button which is this. And now what happens when I click on select image? When I click on select image, make sure not to load this page. and get the button attribute. We have a button attribute in the JavaScript as a variable. We have an input field hidden just above the button attribute, so that's why we have used previous. Just above we have an input field hidden, just get that, and initialize the pop-up. So to initialize the pop-up, we have wp.media function. We can set the title which is coming from here. Select, we can update this title with which is coming from here, and then we are saying that we want to select only one, so we are able to select only one. You can see only one tick is there, not multiple is available. Now on selection, what should happen on selecting an individual, on selecting the individual image, we need to get the URL. So to get the URL, you need to write this function. So we need to understand the state. These are the these are the WordPress defined. We are not creating it. We are getting the first selected image, and we are converting it to JSON. So we have the URL. Sorry, we don't have the URL. Actually, we have the object. Now in the object, we want to get the ID and store it into the input field hidden. We have the ID access that we are passing it. You can see I'm passing it to the input field hidden, and then I'm with this object also has a URL. So this URL will get appended to below the image which you see here. Just below we have an image, so that is getting appended with the help of attachment.url. So before attachment, I want to remove, after the button we have a VR. So I'm saying after next we have a VR, and after that we have an image. So just after the button we have a VR and we have an image, and I am asking it to remove it and then load it again. You can see I'm loading it again with VR and loading it with image, and finally open the frame. So this is already defined, we don't have to do anything about it. Now if I get into the post, let's say test1, and click on add more, and now if I click on add more, you'll see the title is available, and let me select an image and click on upload. And now I can add one more, test2, and select the other image. Likewise, let me add one more image so that we can make use of the shortcode to display these three images, and click on update. And in case if you want to remove, you can just click on remove and click on update. The whole data would be deleted, and again it would save all the added data. And let me add one more thing, just name anything, select the image and use this image, update. And now we'll make use of the shortcode. To make the shortcode, we have a function called add short, and inside the add shortcode, with this is actually the shortcode. So you would be writing this shortcode, and we need to pass the post ID, let's say some number which you can get it over here, 192. So we'll be passing this shortcode to a page. So let me create a new page, just pass it, we don't need this, just pass it and just say shortcode gallery and click on publish. And now what we need to fetch all the values from the table and display it. So before that we need to know whether this ID is passed or not. If the ID is not passed, then we need to give nothing, and we are checking whether the shortcode has an value or not. If there is no value, then add the empty values, and then we don't have to worry about this. If it is empty, then it's giving a value, and we are just fetching all the values from the table. And the post ID we are actually passing it, we will be receiving it from the shortcode, and we are passing the post ID. We don't need this. Now as said, the post ID is getting fetched from the shortcode value, and we are receiving the data. So we are fetching all the values from the row based on the post ID. If there is no value, then it will be displayed. We are encubing the Bootstrap CDN. So since it is Bootstrap based, we have appended the CDN, and then it's simply a container with the row and we have all the values in the row, and we are fetching and displaying the image URL and the title. That's it. Very simple and straight. So you can see the value is displayed over here. In case if you want to add one more image, let's try to add one more and some name, and if I make an update, and if you refresh it got saved, and if you refresh this page, you'll see the fourth entry. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for listening.